Hi guys, Shane here. I hope you've all been keeping well. So about a week ago, I produced a small video in response to a couple of questions that were put to me. The first one being, what is the first thing that I teach a horse when it comes to training and why? And the second one was, if there was only one thing I was going to teach a horse and one thing only, what would it be and why? So in answer to those two questions, I demonstrated and introduced you to an exercise known as lateral flexion through use of the halter and lead rope, and explain to you why I believe that this is such an important exercise to teach your horses. So since I put that video out, a few people have gone out and attempted to teach this exercise to their horses and have been faced with a few challenges and hiccups. What I didn't share with you in that video was how I go about teaching the horses this exercise of lateral flexion and the steps I take them through in order for them to understand it and achieve it as easily as possible. So the purpose of this video is to follow up and go through what my goals are and remind you what it is I'm trying to achieve, and more importantly, maybe share with you how you can overcome some of the challenges you might face with when you're introducing this for the first time, and also possibly highlight some of the errors that you might be making when trying to attempt this. So I aim to do this by using two horses, the first one being a horse that's almost getting this exercise 100% now, although she's not perfect. And the second one is a horse that I've never done this to, and it's probably going to be more testing and more challenging, and hopefully he might demonstrate some of the things that you are faced with, and I can walk you through the steps and the techniques that I might use to help him better understand what it is I'm asking. So before I get started, I'm just going to remind you what the exercise is and what my goal is and what it is exactly I'm trying to achieve. So lateral flexion is my ability, through applying pressure to her face through use of the halter and lead rope, to get her to bend her head and neck to such a degree that she takes her nose and touches her nose on her shoulder and rib cage whilst remain standing still. Now, the reason why I wanted to touch her nose on her shoulder rib cage is that if she's doing that, or she's able to do that, at that point she's giving me both mentally and physically 100% of herself. She can't give me any more flex or any more bend than that. And I think that's a really important thing for you to understand. It's not that I'm going to ask her for 100% for the rest of her life, but I really want her to think that when I apply pressure to her face, she better be mentally and physically prepared to give me 100%. And then it's going to be up to me how much I want to use in the future for whatever reason. Okay, now I'm going to give you a demonstration and give you a rundown of what it is I'm asking. So I'm going to slide my hand down the rope, wide over her shoulder, up to her wither. Just hold it. She takes her nose, touches her shoulder, I release. Once again, slide my hand wide, up to the wither, wait, touches, release. Slide my hand down again, release. Okay, so there you see, she has to remain standing still during this whole time, and if she touches that nose on that shoulder rib cage with little or no pressure, she earns the release. Okay guys, I've switched horses now. This is Midas, and like I said, he's just come into training. I haven't attempted these exercises with him just yet, and by nature he's quite a nervous, tense type of horse. He's pretty much scared of his own shadow and everything in his environment. So I'm really hoping that he sets me some challenges that may be similar or the same as to what you guys at home may be faced with. And I can run through those challenges and how I deal with them, and maybe point out some things you could do a little bit easier or different to overcome them, and really make it easier for your horse to understand what it is we're trying to achieve. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the camera angle and get much close up, and so you can see what it is I'm doing with my hand and possibly how he's responding to things, and give you much better insight into what's going on. Okay, I'm going to get to work with Midas here, but like anything in any exercise you introduce, you need to find the starting point and the introduction of that concept. So although this exercise is done primarily down the lead rope through to the side of his face and the head collar, I'm going to introduce this by using my hands and fingers just under the side of the head collar here. I'm going to apply a little bit of pressure toward me. If he should give like he did then, I'm going to release. And then that's the introduction of the concept, and now I'm going to build on that in time, and then make a transition from my hand to the lead rope. But I'm trying to make it as easy as possible. Pull, release. Pull, release. Pressure, release. Remember, guys, horses learn from the release of pressure, not the application of it. And remember, I think somewhere where people get this wrong is that they often apply too much pressure and then wonder why they get a lot of resistance. Remember, a horse can feel a fly sit anywhere on its body. So how much pressure do you really need to apply to them before you get a reaction or possible overreaction? So here I'm going to apply pressure towards me, release. Now he's a pretty reactive horse, and this is why he moves his feet around. So the one good thing about this is that quite often these reactive, nervy type horses do respond quicker, and you can sort of use that as an advantage. Pressure towards me, release. I'm trying to be as quick as I can with the release of pressure. Release, and reward the smallest try. Now he's really quite feely here, and he looks like he wants to give me more. So I'm going to switch it up now and move on to using the lead rope. Now I think you can see he's already bending like he is now, which kind of looks like he's done this before, but in reality I think he's doing this through a little bit of inquisitiveness and a bit of curiosity. So it's kind of a false economy, but who knows. So I'm going to start now by using the lead rope and take my hand, my watch hand, start up by his withers. So he's moving around already, he doesn't like that. I'm going to slide that hand wide of him, bang the round pen, and I'm going to bend this toward me a bit. Now I'm not going to try and go to the withers because this amount of pressure is already creating movement. Here he's standing still, there he gave, I'm going to release. Remember, I'm going to build on the concept. He doesn't need to achieve the goal straight away. I'm just looking for effort and try. Slide my hand down the rope, wide toward the middle of the round pen, up toward his withers. Now I put my hand on his withers and you see he's pulling down. Well, there he touched himself. I'm going to release. Slide wide, withers, bang, he's got it. Actually, so this horse is really, apart from the movement, he's actually picked up immediately, and now you can see he's already anticipating it. Now I love that anticipation because that means, you know, he's mentally and physically preparing to be pulled on again. Another thing I love right now is how he's lowering his head and neck, and for a tense horse this exercise can be used to do exactly that. By taking them left and right, you can drop their neck and possibly drop their anxiety levels. Any horse that's nervous is not going to stand like this. They're going to stand with their head and neck up high in a more alert position. Slide wide, wither, he's touching, release. This side's pretty good. I'm going to go to the other side and see whether we can open a can of worms maybe and see how he responds to that. Okay, he's trying to bite me actually. So like, guys, this is what I mean by this being a false economy. Slide, there we go. See, he kind of, oh, there he released. He kind of resisted by pulling back. Drop the rope there, slide. Wide, here he's moving. I'm just going to follow him with that pressure until he stands and gives. Slide, wide. He touches. Now that time I didn't release because I was trying to see whether he might flick his head back and then bump into that rope halter again and sort of overreact to that. So I kind of held on to him just to sustain that effort a little longer. There, release. Slide wide. Yeah, he's pulling a little bit. There's a noise behind me which has caught his attention. I'm just going to hold on here, touch, release. Now you've heard me say a couple of times slide wide, wither. The reason for this is I think a lot of people that do this exercise really change the angle quite a bit. They go wide and then they come down to the horse's rib cage or where their foot or ankle would be. Now that's not where you're going to be riding or using your hands in the future. So everything I do from the ground, I like it to have a link or be an introduction to what I do under saddle. So what I mean by that is the whole point of saying the slide wide wither is to remind the person doing this exercise is that if you go and use those angles, that's going to benefit you later on when you start bringing your hands up to sort of the middle of your belt buckle or the outsides of your hips. Here he's resisting. I'm just going to hold on to that until he stands and gives. So yes, just continue there. The whole point of slide wide wither is to remind you to be using the correct angles which are going to have practical purpose for you going forward when you're under saddle. Like I said, no one pulls their horses' heads around with their hands down by their shin or their boots. Here he's moving. I'm just going to follow him. This might make you a bit dizzy, folks, but that's just how it is. Got to wait for him to stand still and give. Now this might be something that your horses are doing. You just got to run in there and stay with them. Just keep an amount of pressure that you can sustain, and stay with it until he gets to standing still and then gives. See, this is what I mean. This horse was giving quite a lot earlier on, and it might have looked like he'd done it before, but in reality I think he was giving just because the more inquisitive. Now that he's actually reacting or overacting to the pressures that I'm applying. He doesn't like me holding onto his face like this and putting him in the spine. Here he's standing, he's licking his lips, there's a little give there. I want to give back. Now I gave to him there with very little effort because we had just been through a moment of pretty sort of contentious time, so I just wanted to reward the smallest try. Then I'm going to ask him again and just build on that. There. So you see, because I gave him a reward for the smallest try, when I asked again, he gave me a lot more effort. There we go. So slide, wide, wither, touch, release. There we go. Now he's really, again, anticipating the exercise. Here he's moving off. I might even use this exercise now to shut him down. So this is the foundation to that one range stop that we sometimes talk about. Here he's resisting with his head and neck. Pressure, release, pressure, release. Perfect. I think a mistake people make in this is that they often apply too much pressure that you can't sustain. Remember, horse is always going to be able to add more pressure than you and outpull you. So with that whole sort of feeling one fly anywhere in its body concept in mind, apply as little pressure as you need, and then be prepared to add as much as necessary as you go through the process. But I think a lot of people run into trouble because they apply too much to begin with, get an overreaction, and it's an amount of pressure that they can't follow or sustain. It's no good adding 100 ounces of pressure when you're going to only really need to add 5 to get a response. Slide, wide, wither, he touches, he's standing, there, release. Right, actually I'm pretty pleased with this horse. He's demonstrated almost a complete exercise on day one. And that was another question people asked me. How long does this take? Ordinarily, even with a really, really tough horse, I don't think it's taken me ever longer than 3 days to get this to being pretty good or how I need it. So there's no real answer. Take as much time as needed that's relative to your horse and your situation. But you can't do too much of this. If you've done it 100 times, do it another 100 times. It really has no negative effect on them. In fact, quite the opposite. Slide, wide, wait, touch, release. Okay guys, I'm going to quit this horse here and probably just give you a summary and a conclusion to this exercise and today's work, and recap a few things, and we'll go from there. So guys, just to wrap things up, I'm just going to answer a few questions quickly that I wasn't able to demonstrate in that last session. The first one was, my horse is the type or breed of horse which has a really thick head and neck, and possibly it's not supple enough to do this. Well, you've got to think that horses are able to do this in the paddock with ease. They chase flies off their rib cage or a wasp that might be sitting on them, and they can even take their nose and scratch their hind fetlock. So it's this exercise that is going to help their suppleness, and you're not asking them to do anything that they can't already do physically. How many times a day should I do this? Well, I like to do this every time I put a head collar on a young horse. I test out the response. If it's how I want it to be, I move on. If it's not how I want it to be, I'm going to practice a little bit more in that time just to get it improved, and then I might come back in the afternoon or the next work session and try again. So you can't do this enough. Another thing to remember is the whole concept of slide, wide, wither, that sort of saying I had. This is really going to help you when you get under saddle, because those are the angles that you're going to be pulling on with the reins or the head collar from being up on the saddle, and that's really going to introduce your horse to the angles that are going to be associated with being ridden. Something else that this exercise is really going to help with is that whole concept I mentioned before, which relates to the fact that you do the pulling and that they do the giving. This is really going to help them understand and respect what it means to be pulled or led on in the halter and lead rope. And remember, this is the one piece of equipment that you're going to want them to be get on, because you're going to use it on a daily basis, and it's going to be the foundation for all your groundwork exercises and make things a whole lot easier for you and your horses. So in conclusion, guys, I hope you've enjoyed watching this video and you found it both useful and helpful. If so, please hit the like button. Feel free to leave a comment. There's for sure things I probably missed out, and I'll be happy to return your comments. Make sure you follow so you can keep updated with any further videos I stick out there. So with that said, until next time, enjoy your horses, stay safe, stay in touch, and thanks for watching. Take care, guys.